Thank you, Jacob. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight is the last of our budget workshops where we review each of the departmental's financial budgets and the proposed upcoming budget for fiscal year 2021. Tonight we have two departments presenting. The first will be Beaches Energy Services, followed by Recreation and Parks. And here to start with Beaches Energy Services is their director, Alan Putnam. Alan, you're currently muted.
Everybody hear me now? Good evening. Sorry, I'm tracking the thunderstorm. It's about to get pretty nasty. 3 nights in a row we've gotten hammered. So quickly, I'll go over the organization. This year we split out the division so that we could show you the number of people in each division. I don't know if you could see. So you can actually scroll through those first 3 pages, pages 1 through 3. We broke them down so you could actually see where the employees are, so that when we do request employees in the future, you'll see exactly where we're adding them by department. If you could go to page 4. Some of our accomplishments this year, we negotiated an agreement with TECO Partners. This allows us to purchase our natural gas supply at a pretty significant discount. We have not seen the effects. We've only seen 1 month of buying it under this new agreement, but we know we've saved at least $25,000 this past just in July alone. And we'll wait to see. We estimate it will save us about $300,000 a year on gas supply. The second thing is, for the 3rd time in a row, we've received the Diamond designation for RP3, which is Reliable Public Power Provider Award through the American Public Power Association. Possible highest score is 100. We received a 99.9 out of 100. I think that's the highest score we've ever received. That's the highest score I've ever seen for a utility since I've been in this business over 24 years. We'll be reapplying for that award again in 2022. It's a 3-year award, so you get awarded every 3 years. The work starts far in advance of the award being provided. It's typically a year ahead of time you start working on it. The next thing is we continue to maintain our electric outage time at less than half of the average for utilities in Florida. That's another big thing. It's 33.73 minutes versus 69.7 minutes for the average utility of our size in the state. So we're less than half the time it takes for us to restore power when the power is out. Lastly, I want to touch on the ECP contract that we started like over a year and a half ago. We actually used that process this year to start our Samson project. And as you may know, I've kind of told you guys this on and on over the last month or so. We started the project in May, and actual construction will be completed in the next week or 2. And for a project of that size to get done that quick and on budget is something we were long awaiting to do. And we finally did our first one, and it was very, very successful. I haven't shared a whole lot with you guys. It's hard to share these videos of this big giant transformer coming in on 210 and and having to bring it in with this specialized equipment and 2 cranes lowering it in. Mike's seen some of it. I wish I had a way to send it to you, but the files are so large. But at some point, I'd like to maybe get it on one of the drives, on the city drives, so maybe you guys can take a look at it. But it's a significant project. It will be completed on time, within budget, and I think I pointed out the last time, the last substation addition we did was at Guana. It took almost 2 years. It's not completed. There's still some small issues that we're still working on. This project ideally was done in 8 months with engineering and everything. So it's a significant cost savings. It's a significant change, a reduction in the amount of time it takes to complete the project. I'll turn over to page 5, system reliability. And I talked about that. We're about half what the average is in the state of municipals and munis our size. The next closest competitor is FPL, and that's for average minutes out per customer per year and average number of times out per customer. We beat them on both measures. We beat everybody else on both measures. that says a lot about what we do on the distribution side to keep things up to date, to keep things in the most reliable, to put things where we need them to keep our system reliable and keep our tree trimming up and all the other maintenance that we do each and every day. You can look at our SAIDI, which is the average amount of time each customer or a customer is out during an outage, significantly going down. It went down actually May through July. I know you can't see May, June, July on there, but actually continued to go down each month compared to last year over the last 3 months. So that's another, we're on a good track now. August is not helping us right now. Have you seen from the last 3 nights, we're getting some pretty significant weather, and it's caused a few outages. Next page is basically a lot of the customer service side, a lot of their data. I'm not sure if Ashley would like to touch on that. She's going to speak a little bit later. She may want to touch a little bit on that. Going over to page 7. A couple things to point out here is our reduction, $28 per 1,000 kilowatt hours per customer that uses 1,000 kWh. That's $324 annually for a customer savings. I talked to you already a couple times this year about our solar projects. Our first solar project went live. Actually, it went live in June, and when that was really a test month. But July, it went into full production. 10 megawatts that we're receiving. That project went off without a hitch. The other project, which was another 15 megawatts, has been somewhat delayed due to a court case with Duke Energy of Florida. The case has now been resolved. They'll be moving forward with that project. We should be done sometime in the fall or winter. That gives us another 15 megawatts. So that would be total of 25 megawatts. Put that in perspective. On an average day when it's not in this real hot summer or cold winter, we use about 100 megawatts a day. So that represents about 25% of our generation supply. Next page, page 8. I'm going to talk a little bit about rates. We'll be replacing this one sheet. We had forgotten that March and April of this year, we had suspended bulk power costs to our customers due to COVID-19 challenges. And this was really the next available sheet was June. It wasn't available till just a week or 2 ago. So we'll be updating this in the final version. So it shows here our prices at 88.07 cents per 1,000 kilowatt hours. Bulk power cost is approximately $21.84. That would put us at $109.91 per 1,000. Still puts us right between Tampa Electric and Newberry, well below the state average. Does anybody have any questions to this point? Seeing none, I'll move on. Page 9, some of our goals for 2021, maintain our residential rate for 1,000 below the state average. Of course, that's always our goal. Continue to maintain our outage time at less than 50% of the average for municipal utilities of our size. Complete all facility improvements listed in capital improvement plan. I'd like to speak a little bit about that. We are currently in the process of developing a strategic operations plan in conjunction with FMPA and our consulting firm, which is 1898 Inc., which is it's a arm of Burns and McDonnell who'll be helping us. It's just our consulting side. So what you may see in this capital budget plan for this year may drastically change next year as we reprioritize and kind of figure out what's the most efficient way to complete everything that we need to complete in the next 5 to 10 years. So this could change drastically. We're not trying to, hopefully not spending any more money per year, but just juggling projects around where they make more sense and to be the most efficient we can be, and based on the priorities that we have to maintain reliability going forward. So page 10. I just want to mention as far as service, these are performance measures, but under service. So we've asked the question this year. You'll see this updated and hopefully going forward. You know, you see some goals there for service. For example, energy audits. 763 is far above 350. 528 is above 350. So we've asked going forward if our conservation side, could they, reevaluate these goals? Let's make them more realistic. If we're blowing away the goal every year, then obviously it's not a realistic goal. So we'll be, next year, we'll be looking at that more closely and making sure that we have stretch goals in place for us to achieve. Page 11, you see our funding sources. And I believe this is where Ashley wanted to jump in briefly and talk about our care fund. I don't know if you have her available.
I could speak to that if you want, Alan.
No, please.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, our CFO had looked back to our history back when we were going in the throes of the Great Recession, and she had done an analysis showing the utility billing assistance program, or what we refer to as the care fund here internally. And it's the money that we provide to Beam to administer on our behalf to provide utility assistance to BES customers. And so in the event that a customer has an issue paying their bill, they can work with Beam, and Beam will actually, pay their bill for them. And so it's one of those programs here that's been in the beach's energy budget for quite some time. It's extremely well received. And I think given what we're going through right now, there's consensus among staff to double that budget from the current budget amount of $60,000, which is in the document that's before you right now, to actually double it to $120,000. Because we feel that would be more in line with the need that we saw back in the throes of the Great Recession 10 or 12 years ago. And so what we would be looking for now is consensus from the council on whether or not that would be an amendment that you all agree with and that you're okay with.
I support it.
I would support it as well.
Are there any members that wouldn't? All right. So when we bring the budget to y'all for the first budget hearing in September, which would be the first reading and the tentative adoption of the budget, you would see a restatement of some of the figures reflecting this amendment.
Thanks, AJ. So just moving forward on the budget, we're asking for a total budget of a little bit less, 1% less than we did the previous year. Anybody have any questions on the budget?
Can we go back to the CARES program really quick?
Sure.
Do they get any sort of administrative fee for administering this program for us?
I don't believe they do.
That.
Yeah,
They do not.
Okay. Should they? Is that a conversation that we've had with Beam?
I have not had that conversation.
Okay.
Councilmember Hoffman, recently when the council, as part of one of the measures to provide immediate relief as a result of COVID, we had some conversations with Beam about providing kind of an administrative fee. That was a conversation. I don't want to say it didn't really go anywhere, but we had the conversation with them. They didn't really express the immediate need for it. And so we didn't continue it from there.
Okay. I mean, that's great. If they're willing to distribute appropriately that amount of money, then that's great for us and for our customers.
They are tremendous.
I would also like to point out that they did receive direct funding from City of Jacksonville on disbursement of federal funds, specifically to cover their overhead and administrative charges. And I think that's probably a big reason as to why there isn't a need for the administrative fees at this point.
That
I
makes
also
sense.
think that if we're going to examine that as a potential, providing them an administrative fee, we ought to take a look at our own cost analysis to see if it's something we want to do ourselves.
We can look at that, Mr. Mayor. I just know that they do a very heavy share of lifting to administer the program, and it would probably be a tremendous amount of effort if that was something we were to try and bring here in-house.
And
Yeah, I'll add to that, that at JEA, you know, when I was there, we had 3 or 4 different organizations that provided this type of service. And I'll be honest with you,
So we may need to wait for Alan to log back in order to continue.
Yeah, I think so.
Frozen up. He may have to reload.
I had a question about the CARES program. How much is it being used? Do we know that? I know we're doubling it, but I think one of the last updates that we had, there weren't a lot of people, but it was like a couple months ago.
I believe the CFO has the latest numbers if she's online.
I'm here. So Jacob's got up on the screen right now. It's probably very hard to read the history of our CARES fund, the funds provided to our customers and how much it's been utilized. Where we are right now, as of last Friday, the $90,000 that we had made available in the beginning of the year, plus the additional $30,000 that the council authorized as part of the COVID-19 relief, that had been fully utilized. Okay. So we had a surge in donations from our customers, providing an additional 16,000. So we then added that, and hopefully that will carry through the rest of the fiscal year.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And I just wanted to clarify that my question was my own out of curiosity. I wasn't suggesting that we add in an administrative fee. I just know there is a cost to giving away.
Okay, bye.
I guess Alan's back on. I just know that there's a cost associated with that. So so I'm not suggesting that we offer them that. I was just curious.
Sorry, I missed everything. I was kind of kicked off by that little blink. Might get another one here in a minute. Everybody's all right?
Yes, sir. There was consensus from the council to double the budget, Alan.
Awesome. So so I guess if we can move on, we'll move on to page 12. Gas prices were projected to be lower this year compared to last year, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure what's going to happen to gas prices in the next year. You know, you would think in a normal year this is not economically caused. So, you know, a lot of the demand for oil and gas is back. You're missing certain parts of that, like jet fuel is not in demand right now, but so far we've seen prices stay low. But I've also seen people starting to cut back production. They've also shut down many of these, many of the wells. They're shut down, and there's a lot of consolidation going on in the oil and gas industry. So I'm predicting that the price will continue to stay low for this year and next year, but I'm not going to make a guarantee on that based on what I've seen in the last few months. Moving on to page 13. I've talked about this in the past about, you know, FMPA and what we're trying to do there. You know, paying off the debt, replacing the all requirements model with something that builds strategic alliances and helps us lower costs even more. So we did recently have a rate restructuring discussion at FMPA. We all agreed to restructure rates. The new rate will be more in line with how we actually use electricity and how we sell it, rather than an old model that's been used for decades. It was almost a model that tried to levelize costs among the cities, and that's not something we were interested in continuing. Page 14, regulatory issues. As always, we have, you know, reliability standards in transmission. Those are always, they're always changing. The rules are always new. They're modifying. There's more work you have to do every single year. And as you know, we've added a compliance officer this year that works directly for me to be able to manage this stuff along with our supervisors and our crews. One thing to add here, I'm talking about the modernizing electric system infrastructure, and that's our substations and transmission. Again, that will be driven by the strategic plan that we're developing currently. I imagine that plan would be finalized in the next month or so. We're just waiting some feedback back from our two groups that are helping us. Again, I mentioned FMPA and Burns and McDonald's group 1898. And then, you guys hear me? I could hear someone talking in the background. I wasn't sure. So last page, natural gas. Actually, next to last page, natural gas. Just something to mention here. When I came here, we weren't really trying to grow the natural gas part of our business. So it's funny. I went back and looked back to 2015 when I arrived here, and we've added 40. We've grown the customer base by 48% in the last 4 years. It's pretty significant. We've also added about 20,000 DTHs, which is decatherms. That's a pretty significant increase in the amount of gas supply and the amount of customers that we serve, and it's going to continue to grow. The last thing I mentioned a little bit earlier, the agreement with TECO that took place from them going from a supplier of our natural gas to actually a consultant that helps us obtain our supply through the lowest possible bidder. It's been a huge help for us. Like I said, we saw the first month go really low. That was July, and we'll continue to see that go down. And I'll be able to report back to you on how much we save over the year, but we think it'll be significant. Lastly, yes.
I'm sorry. You're talking about your strategic plan. You're thinking long term. Do you see us having natural gas readily available for residents in Jax Beach, as opposed to are we still going to keep that business focus?
So residential gas is very difficult. Unless you get in before construction, it's very hard. Otherwise, you're putting natural gas lines on the outside of people's homes and drilling through their walls and drilling through and going through their attics to serve it down into their kitchen or wherever they want it. It becomes very difficult and expensive for the residential customer. It's not something we foresee doing. We've done it in a couple places. The only one place we've done it is down in the hole in Ponte Vedra, down in Palm Valley. There was 3 restaurant customers down there that wanted natural gas, and 1 condo actually wanted to put the piping on the outside to serve their condominium. But I will say, we'll look for opportunities wherever they are, wherever we can pick up a significant amount of natural gas load, at a reasonable payback. Of course, we're going to look at every opportunity we can. Secondly, we're going to be looking for opportunities to provide natural gas to ourselves to put, for example, a RICE engine, which is a reciprocating internal combustion engine. We may want to put one of those someplace so we can actually shave peak off of our load and save us a significant amount of dollars on our electric demand charges. That was something we couldn't do over the last decade or so. George had instituted a plan back about a decade ago that they did for maybe 5 years, and it was stopped because it was a violation of a contract with FMPA. Because of what it did, it shifted costs to the other cities that participated in it, because we were shaving our peak, they weren't shaving theirs. But now with this new way we're looking at doing business at FMPA, we can actually together, as cities together, we can shave peak together. Since we have natural gas, since we have property, it makes it easier for us to be able to do that and share that savings along with our other customers, who will of course pay for the service we provide. So I'll be looking for any opportunity in natural gas that serves the city well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And nothing on that page. The next page is just our gas throughput. Like I said, we've increased our throughput about 20 decatherms since 2015. That's a significant amount. And so if you look at that, 208,000 decatherms, and I'm trying to put that in perspective, because a lot of people say, what's a decatherm? I don't know what that is. So if you had 208,000 decatherms of natural gas, you could run your 50-gallon electric water heater for 214,000 straight days. So that's a pretty significant number of days. I was trying to put it in some way where the layman can understand how much natural gas it is. It's significant. And then the last page is just a breakdown of our capital budget for this fiscal year. So if anybody has any questions or comments.
You, Alan, you have more to cover, or is that you wrapping up?
That's the last page of my presentation.
I just was pretty active with you and George and Karen and the FMPA and FMEA over the last 7 years. And you're currently, one thing that hasn't been mentioned for sitting president of the FMEA. Is that correct?
Second year in a row.
Yeah. So thank you for all that you do, and you go above and beyond. And I've worked with you in the Capitol building, and you watched you in action. And I'm just, what we are today is attributed in a great deal to you and your team, and I'm very grateful for that. And I just want to
appreciate
put that on the record before I leave. So
No, thank you, Charlie. I appreciate it. I have a great team.
you do.
There's no other questions. We'll move on to the second presentation of the night, which will be from Rec and Parks. Alan, for you and the rest of Beaches Energy, thank you for the presentation.
Hey,
Thank you.
Mike, I was just going to ask, I mean, was Ashley going to do anything about the customer service piece or no?
Is there anything specific you'd like to know?
No, I just didn't know if she was going to go over that or not. You had mentioned something about she might. I didn't know.
I think a lot of that gets covered when they do their budget presentation, when she actually does hers. So, I mean, that'd be a question for Ashley.
I think she's here more to answer questions on it if you have questions on that sheet.
Yes.
No, I don't have any questions. I just wanted to give her an opportunity if she had anything she wanted to say.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that wraps up Beaches Energy. Thanks, Alan. And Jason, we'll have Jacob go over to your section of the budget, and the presentation is yours.
Well, good evening, Council and Mayor. I'm going to go, as the city manager always says, at a very high level, and feel free to interrupt me with questions at any time. I'm going to talk about a few of the divisions in Parks and Rec, and then hand it over to our golf course guys to talk about the golf course. So in a nutshell, the mission of Parks and Recs is basically, safe, well-maintained facilities. We did that parks assessment, got the results, and we're anxious to bring them to council here in the near future. So I don't want to talk too much about that, but I do think that, there were some results in that survey that I do want to share, in summary. A couple of the questions we asked were specifically what the residents thought about the safety and maintenance of, there were two separate questions, safety and maintenance of our parks. And the answers were very similar. We had about 350 people respond. About a little less than 15% thought that, the parks were not safe and not well maintained. Then you had about a quarter of them, 25%, that thought we were average, and the remaining 60% thought we were either very good or above average. And so when we look at those results, we honed in on that 15% that said, we're not safe, and what was that really about? And come to find out, of those 40 respondents, at least half of them said the safety issue was the vagrancy in Gonzalez Park and somewhat in Latham and Seawalk Pavilion. So if we address that issue, I think we can cut that number up by half and bump those numbers up. So next year, that's going to be a measuring point for us. The city attorney will bring to council a chapter 20 of the code of ordinances, and there we are going to address the vagrancy issue, and we hope that that's going to help us move that problem along. On the maintenance side, people pointed out broken nails and bad wood at the playground areas and things. And, we thought address those, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when we come into the grounds maintenance division. But overall, we're very pleased with the results and anxious to share that survey with you. Dropping down on that page, you can see, total staff in Parks and Recs, about 140. 29 of those are full-time. Most of the part-timers are lifeguards. If you flip to page 2, please, Jacob. So the Recreation Admin Division is responsible for the fiscal and personal management. Again, this division, we run the cemeteries, we run the dog park, the exhibition hall, things like that. We also take care of the sports and recreation programs, and we've got very good both adult and youth sports programs. Flip over to page 3. Want to drop down to just highlight some of the recreation goals. Again, you know, our goal is to offer activities for citizens of all ages. And what we're looking to do in this next year is add sports such as lacrosse, indoor basketball, and pickleball. We think, you know, that Gonzales provides a good opportunity for the pickleball. We working together with Fletcher to experiment on an indoor basketball league, and then also at both Fletcher and Gonzales and Carver, we're looking to eliminate one of the softball fields at Gonzales and turn it into a multi-purpose field that'll open it up to things like lacrosse and other exercises and activities.
Jason, I just have a question. Well, now that you also said multi-purpose field in Gonzales, is it going to be the same kind of fake grass? There's a name for that.
No, so we won't put the artificial. It'll be natural grass. And what we'll do is we'll take the clay away from one of the softball areas and fill that in with turf.
Okay, and my other question, and this goes back, I guess this is with Mike's input, and we had this conversation maybe last year or the year before. The rationale why Parks and Rec is doing public works maintenance on the medians on South Beach Parkway, Jacksonville Drive, and A1A instead of, you know, the Public Works Department.
So I cannot honestly answer that, Ms. Dumont. Since I've been here, we've taken that responsibility. I don't know why it fell onto us. Again, we're glad to do it and do the best we can. You know, that responsibility was with a third-party contractor who did not do a quality job, if you will, and so we took it over. But there's a multitude of properties throughout the city that Public Works takes care of some and Parks takes care of. How we arrived at those, I don't really know.
Go ahead, Mike.
That'll be something that we try to address in future years to come up with better alignment of services to departments. I can tell you that in my personal experience, the Parks and Recreation departments typically are involved in landscaping when there's more of a horticultural expertise that's involved with pruning and fertilization, specific care maintenance that's required for specialty plantings, where Public Works typically does the more larger volume, rudimentary type work, ditch mowing, tree pruning, things that don't require very specific expertise, so to speak. But with that being said, Jason's absolutely right. He and I have had the conversation. There doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason as to why Rec and Parks has certain elements and Public Works has others. It's just a matter of where this falls on priority to start shifting it around. We're still letting Public Works and Dennis Barron get his feet under him before we start having the conversation about reshuffling some of those responsibilities.
Yeah, just looking at like functions with like functions. And then finally, and I asked this to the CRA, but I know in the past, Jason, we had a quick little conversation about someday replacing Sunshine Park's playground equipment. And they kind of handed, CRA and Bill handed the ball off to you with possible timeline that we're looking at for new playground equipment. I know that we just repaired a lot of it.
We did repair it, and those repairs will help us, you know, inch along for the next year or so. I believe in 2023, we have that in the capital improvements plan to be replaced. It
So
may
20
even be in 2022. I'd have to check that, but it's within the next 2 years, I would say.
All right, so we'd put out the design first and the following year would be the construction.
Yes,
Okay, great. And that would be the TIF funds, not the general fund.
correct. Yes,
Okay,
it's in the CRA budget. Yes.
thank you.
Any other questions? Just want to point out two things then still on that page that, you know, at the bottom, we've got there the department. Our goal is to enjoy good relationships and cooperation with other city departments. I think that's very important in the light of our new core values, the EPIC team values. And I think, you know, as we mentioned, Parks shares a lot with Public Works. We work well together there. They help us out with the splash pads. On those splash pads, we are going to look to get that water maintenance contracted out, which would give us more flexibility in terms of, you know, how long in the season we keep it open and so forth. And then the other thing is that, you know, some of these goals could materially change as a result of the parks assessment. So we look forward to your feedback when we present that to you here in the near future.
All right, so I'm going to ask this question because I think Chris has jumped off already for a meeting, another meeting. So you are looking at extending the operating timeline for the splash pad, meaning opening it earlier and keeping it not time in the day, but months wise, and then keeping it open further into the fall because it's still hot when we close it down.
So the answer to both questions is yes, we've already done that. This season, we've started at 9 a.m. as opposed to 10 a.m. And in years past, we used to close around, excuse me, Labor Day, but now we extend it through the end of October. Okay. And so if we do get, you know, good weather into November and, you know, we get citizens calling up, can we open it up with the contractor on board? That would be readily available. So
okay. Thank you. Just, you know, she's been asking that one for years, so I just threw it out because she's not here to ask it.
Okay. Jason, I've got some questions too.
Okay.
On that page, just for my knowledge, what is under the ocean rescue, what would be preventive actions? Because there's definitely a lot that the ocean rescue is doing. So what falls under that?
That's a good question. I was going to bring that up when in the next page or two, but basically a preventative action would be something to the effect where a guard would see a bather inching close to, say, a rip current and would whistle them out. That would be a preventative action.
So they track all of those, I guess, huh?
Yes, they do. And you'll see in the next few pages that there is a trend. We've been tracking it for the past 3 years. And those trends are increasing from year to year. Basically, activity on the beach is less seasonal than it has been.
And then I also noticed that there wasn't anything in the accomplishments about lights for the girls' softball field.
So that was my next year. You're one step ahead of me, Ms. Golding. On the next page, I was going to add that yes, we did successfully complete that project. Also, coincidentally with that, we are currently working on the fencing. If you recall, council approved a repair to Wingate and Huguenot Park fencing in the amount of about $60,000. We were going to put that out to bid, but we found that we could get more bang for our buck, so to speak, if we did the project in smaller pieces. So that's ongoing, and we hope to have that completed by the end of this calendar year.
And then as far as the dog park, just a question there, because you talk about the membership, and do we have any way with that fob system, do you have a way of knowing like when the peak times it's being used and maybe perhaps how many people are using it at peak times through the fob? You know, the fob reports or anything like that?
Yes, we do. We can track that. And as a matter of fact, in the survey that we did for the dog park specifically, we asked that question as well. And so that'll be part of the parks assessment. You'll find that the answer to your question there, when the peak times are for the dog park.
Okay, I just figured that if there's, I thought at one time when we were looking at the fob system that there was some way to get data like that, and I didn't know if that was the case with this particular fob system, if we're able to do that.
Yes, we are. The answer is
Okay.
yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
And
Jason,
Jason,
since-
I was just going to say, I did find the CIP item for the playground. It's on page 67 of the CIP tab, and it's programmed in 2024 for $500,000.
thank you. Yep, I see it. I wanted to, Sandy brought up the lights on the softball field. I had my note on page 8 for that one. She got ahead. So thank you for the lights. And we also had that conversation about some kind of, right now around the field where the stands are, it's very soft sand, and it can be difficult if somebody's not very agile and mobile to be able to watch their grandkids or children, or anybody who has those strollers to get to that field. So we briefly talked about possibly some concrete or some kind of pathway to make it more mobile friendly for
Yes.
the the mobilely challenged.
Right. So that is in the works. Initially, we thought that we could bring them in from 15th south. But, you know, when we cleared the brush, we got a lot of kickback from the neighbors, you know, and so we don't think that would be a viable, you know, method of bringing parking to the seniors there. So we will look at, you know, if we can do it next year without tapping too much into our budget, we will at least get sections of it done. But certainly in the following year budget, we'll, you know, take care of that, because we do recognize that it's a need for the seniors, and it is quite a long way to travel to get to the field for them.
Great.
So you're talking parking? Is that what you're asking for, parking, Georgette, as opposed to?
No, not the parking. If you've been to that softball field, the sand is very soft. And it's just hard if you're trying to wheel anything through it, or if you're not very stable on your feet, it's difficult for you to watch to even go and sit down to watch the kids play. And that ended up being a concern, so is leaving some people out, and especially with moms or dads with strollers, it's difficult if you have like a regular stroller, not one of those all-wheel drive strollers, but a regular small-wheeled stroller. It's difficult. You get stuck in the sand.
But Jason, you're talking about parking actually?
No, we're talking about a concrete pathway, basically.
Okay, all right.
So we thought when we said coming off 15th, if they parked there, that concrete pathway would be a lot shorter than we would have to construct on the eastern side of the field, which would be a very long path from the parking in Wingate. Okay, any other questions on that division? If Jacob, you flip to page 5, please. So here we are on the Ocean Rescue Division. You know, the only thing I want to really say on this page is that we rely on our relationship with the Volunteer Life-Saving Corps. It's a very mutually, I think, beneficial relationship. What the Corps brings to us is, you know, they recruit the guards and they train them, which is a very high level of training. That's evident in, you know, the competitions that we go to. We often, you know, either if we're not winning it, we're in the top 2 or 3, you know, so we're very appreciative of that. We're also appreciative of the fact that they man the beach on Sundays. And so that would be a budget issue should, you know, that relationship ever end. Hopefully it doesn't. We're very pleased with that. Last year, we added 1 full-time lieutenant position, which has been very good for the division. We went through a little dip in morale during the year, but we've recovered from that. We've had a little bit of turnover, but I'm happy to report we've just hired two very well-trained, mature individuals that are going to really, really enhance the staff at Ocean Rescue. So very pleased with where we are now staff-wise. If you flip to page 6, these are the trends we mentioned earlier, and you can see that, you know, they're kind of growing from year to year. You know, attribute to less seasonality at the beach. You know, when we get good weather, people are just continuing to flock to the beach. And then, you know, things I think are only going to continue to increase as we get those restaurants built and, you know, things of that nature. But Ms. Golding, you can see on page 7 will give you a definition of the preventative actions at towards the top of the page. I don't have anything else I wanted to mention about Ocean Rescue. If you have any questions, if not, we can flip to page 8, which is our grounds maintenance division. So this division, if you take away the golf course from Parks and Rec, this division then is responsible for almost 40% of our budget. We maintain a total of 59 properties throughout the city. Some are very large, some are small little pocket parks or, you know, right-of-ways and things like that. You know, again, I go back to that assessment, which was, you know, very beneficial because it has pointed out a lot to us. And one of the things that has come out, we've already started to implement, is a pesticide program. What that does basically, you know, through the help, and Trevor Hughes, our golf course superintendent, is going to head that up. It's going to help make our parks and areas look better, so basically more appealing. And so he's worked out a 5-application annual pesticide program. Together with that, we have 1 vacancy for the 9 staff members we have at grounds maintenance, and we're going to fill that with a irrigation specialist. Only, I think, 3 out of all our parks do not have irrigation. The rest of them have irrigation systems, and when we went out and did this assessment, we found that most of them weren't working to their full capability. So with this specialist on board, Trevor's pesticide program, we think that we can really enhance the look of our parks, and so that will boost our maintenance. Again, we are aiming to beat our survey next year, pull down, have less complaints on the maintenance and the safety, and boost our results there.
Hey,
If no
Jason.
questions. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. When you brought up pesticide, I just had to ask you this because I know I've had a resident ask me about it, and you know, you see those ads on TV about Roundup and stuff. I mean, are we using Roundup in some of our pesticide and landscape maintenance, or you know?
So we've got Trevor online. Trevor, if you would come online and answer Ms. Golding on that, please.
In very small quantities. We do no bulk broadcast spraying. We'll mix it up in small 4-gallon sprayers and go out isolating, mainly in beds. But we do follow the label. And currently right now, the EPA tells us it's safe. And the label's the law for us. And until we're told otherwise, we'll continue to follow the EPA standards.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
You've mentioned a couple times the parks assessment. When will we be looking at that?
So I'm going to defer to the city manager.
We've got that scheduled for a council briefing in September.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing it, and thank you for getting that done. It will help us make decisions as well, because we don't know what all the parks have and what they don't have. So thank you very much for getting that part done.
You're very welcome. It was a very beneficial exercise.
Both the parks assessment and urban trail system will be presented at briefing on the same night. Both of them are viewed as interconnected because an urban trail system ideally connects all of your parks and green spaces. And also this will serve as somewhat of a strategic plan for Jason going forward with regards to creation of new urban trails and rehabilitation or redevelopment of existing parks.
Okay. If no other questions, Jacob, we can go to page 10, please. So our tennis center, again, point out what we've done. We've got one full-time and we had two part-timers. And what we did is we took the two part-time positions and split them again to make 4 part-time positions that did not affect the budget the same number of hours. The reason we did this is because we've had a lot of turnover with our part-timers. And when we have that vacancy or one of them's on vacation, it's very difficult. It puts a burden on the other staff then to take up those hours. But our goal here is ultimately to try and get this to be self-sustaining. And as you know, in this budget, we've added the addition of that 8th court. And we think that's going to at least help us get closer towards that goal. Along with that 8th court, we are going to place it currently where the basketball court is now. And we are going to move the basketball court to the southeast corner of the park. And it's going to be a half basketball court. Any questions on that? The other thing I want to add about the tennis center that will help us is we do have budgeted in there a point of sale system that is going to help us with our fee collection, which has been somewhat of a problem in the past.
Jason, before you leave the topic, how close are we to being accretive for this to be paying for itself?
We're about 2/3 of the way there, Mayor. So I think with the 8th court, with a new point of sale system, and then the other thing that we haven't done since 2010, 10 years ago, we haven't taken a rate increase.
Well, that was my next question, is whether or not it was time. But if you want to give that 8th court an opportunity to see if it kicks in, ultimately it would be ideal to have it self-sustaining if possible.
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
Welcome. Jacob, you can flip to page 12, please. Kaaba Center, again, it started out as an after-school center for our kids. We've grown it into almost an all-day center for people of all ages, with the addition, of our adult activities in the morning. Again, Latoya is doing an excellent job. She's just part of the community, and the kids love her, people love her. She also employed an assistant this year that, but for COVID, would have done an excellent job, coaching, mentoring kids. He's got a professional sports background. So we got good staff in place, and, very happy with the way that's going. Again, the field over there, we're going to look to remove the clay, make that multi-purpose, and also talk about, perhaps could that be a hub for our urban trail system? We don't know. That'll obviously come into the equation as we develop that project.
Is the Kaaba Center one of the park areas that has the irrigation?
Yes, it has an irrigation system.
And the same thing with Gonzalez, because if we're putting down an all-purpose field with real grass, we just want to make sure that it gets watered.
Absolutely. So the only parks that don't, from what we know, is Rotary Park does not have an irrigation system. Cradle Creek doesn't have it, doesn't need it. And then Tall Pines doesn't have, again, be very difficult to grow grass with all the trees that we have over there.
Thank you.
Page 11, Jacob, just want to point out, page 13, sorry. that the Community Development Block Grant Program pays for about 55% of this budget, of Kaaba's budget. So no other.
If that does get cut at the federal level, what are our options?
Ms. Dumont, I think the only option that I would know of, unless Ashley or AJ could tell me otherwise, is to be subsidized from the general fund.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Page 14, the only thing I want to mention about our oceanfront facility is that we do have $60,000 budgeted this coming year to do some renovations to the restrooms. And Ms. Dumont, we will include one adult changing table at the pier restaurant, which would restrooms, which would be the only restrooms that could fit an adult changing table.
That's all I'm asking. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Page 15, Community Center and Exhibition Hall. I know Ms. Hoffman had emailed us this morning and said if she wasn't online, she would like to ask why the expenses seem so high. Well, the good news is that in this year's budget, we slashed that by at least 30%, the expenses. And that was purely because we eliminated a contractor who would come in and set up the exhibition hall and tear it down for every event, every large event that we had. And so at least twice a week, we were paying $135 a time for them to do that. And so what we've done is we've eliminated that and we're now doing it with city staff. So we drastically reduced the overhead for that. If no other questions, we can move on to page 16, I believe, is special events. Only thing I want to mention on this page is that if you recall in the fall of 2017, we amended the special events policy. It was a very, I would say, robust amendment. Since then, I don't recall that we've had any major problems to speak of. We've got a good after action process in place where Public Works, Police Department, Fire Department, and Parks and Rec, get together and assess the events afterwards so that when they come up again, we can address issues beforehand, but it's worked very well.
And you're still getting a lot of it's still working very well with the after action with the JFRD?
Yes.
Do you have a point person there?
Yes, and I could tell you his name if I dig in my drawer, but
no, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah, but they show up not only to the after action reports, but to every pre-event meeting. So they are well represented.
And what about the complaints that we heard before COVID? So I don't know if you can actually answer this. JFRD has a different policy with the number of personnel that have to be at events based off of, I think, the size of the event or how many people they think are going to be there, which drastically increased the cost for event people. Have we looked at that? Have we come to any kind of an agreement? I don't know if they would change their policy, but last I heard they were going to, for one of the events, it might have been Springing in the Blues. They were going to see how many people showed up. They were going to leave the cost or the number of personnel same as the previous years, and then just look at how the setup is this year to see what would happen the following year. And then COVID hit, and so I don't know if they've ever actually seen a very large event there.
So, Ms. Dumont, no, I can't answer that definitively. I do know that, that's again between the event producer and JFRD. although we do put their price within our permit. So at those pre-event meetings, those are all negotiated beforehand between them and JFRD. So, but I don't know where we stand right now.
Hey, Jason, I'll just add that I've had the same comment from someone who does events, that it's more expensive now that we have JFRD than it was when Jack's Beach Fire Department was supporting events. So I think it would be good for us to find out what that is looking like, and if it is something that we think is potentially could be a barrier for some of the events.
I will certainly follow up on that. Thank you.
Jason, just as an addendum to the others, I've heard from a pretty credible source it was triple what used to be paid.
So I'll look into that and I'll get back to council in time about that issue.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I guess one of the things for council to think about, not as an answer for tonight, but if it is double or triple what we would normally do, think about what you might want to do from a recourse perspective. You know, if you want special events to occur, but you think the cost that's being charged by a third party provider is too high, there's only limited options that we have at that point, especially if life and safety is needed at the event.
Jacob, if you would go to page 17. So only thing I want to comment on this page, unless you have questions, Ms. Hoffman also emailed this morning and wanted us to, take a look at the jazz concerts to see if we get sponsorships. We have been working on that. It's very difficult to attract sponsors that would take the whole event. They sponsor more of the merchandise and food and that type of thing. So we have been working on that. The other question she wanted to know is if I understood her correctly, if we could maybe eliminate one of those events and replace it with Moonlight Movies or something. And I think that would be a decision for council, to decide.
And where do we stand on the, I guess, the co-sponsored events?
So we have, that would be another one to, I guess, bring to council at a briefing. I'm thinking the city manager might chime in, because we've worked with the city attorney on some language, and we have something ready to go for Mike's review.
You know, we've got a proposed policy that I'm taking a look at, and should be coming back to council shortly to take a look at.
Thank you.
Okay, we can move over to page 19, and I'm going to hand over to the golf course guys on this. But before we do that, I just want to preface that by, saying we've got a very good long-range plan, for the golf course, and we've set some targets, and we're well on the way, I think, to achieving those. And, I want to remind council, I think maybe I'm sounding like a broken record, but it's due to the fantastic staff that we have. When we hired Bruce and Trevor, we really got the best of the best. And even though we spent a lot of money on the renovation, that renovation was only a fraction of the golf course. And if not for these guys and for what they do and how they do it, and their talent and professionalism and their will to be, I would honestly say I don't think we could have achieved what we have thus far. And, we wouldn't have a bright future without their good work. So just want to say thank you to the guys and recognize that. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Bruce.
Thank you, Jason. Jason's always too kind with the words. This has been a lot of fun for me, and I'm certain I can speak on behalf of Trevor. We've had a great time. We've had some pretty lofty goals, and meeting those goals and exceeding into the degree of which we've done is something that we didn't expect. Now, obviously, there's been COVID, there's been a lot of things in place, but we've been very fortunate. And we've been fortunate to have the support that we've had from, Mike Stefopoulos and Karen and Ashley and AJ have all been great. So it's, this has been a lot of fun for us, and we hope to continue the success we've had so far. So as you see on the first page, we've had a couple of increases as far as staff goes. Obviously, you have this many rounds, I'm gonna get to that here in just a minute, increased over our budget. You need more people. Maintenance staff is really low. For Trevor to have the staff that he's got right now is, and for him to do what he's doing with the staff that he's got is remarkable. Nothing short of that. So any questions as far as the staff that we've got right now? Okay. So, we obviously opened November 2018, so we have a little bit of a shorter year, 40 days or so, less to compare to in the 2019 and 20 year. But that 40 days shortened year, November 10th on, we did about 52,000 rounds, whereas we are on pace right now to do 65,000. And Ms. Dumont, I think you asked me at a council meeting, I thought you wanted to do less rounds. And yes, that is still our goal. So we're going to try to put some things in place at some point here soon that allows us to, close certain day or, certain half a days to let Trevor and his crew get the projects done they need to get done. And just to figure out a way to go from 65,000 to something a little bit more manageable that allow us to maintain the golf course condition we need to for longevity. We have, as far as recent accomplishments go, not noted on there, is we did finish, or we're about to finish this week, hopefully, the range cover. If anyone's been down to the driving range, please come down and look. There's a lot of work that's been done over the last 10 days or so. It looks significantly different, and we're very happy and very proud of the work that the companies that we hired to do that have done. The range ball machine is closed. We've got a number of different components going in as far as getting the credit card component, the key fob component. There's a few different moving parts that we're working with City Hall and accounting to get this happen. We are on pace right now with over 40 days left in our year. We're at 2.14 right now, and we budgeted that. We're a little bit less than that. So we're quite a bit ahead and heading in the right direction.
Hey, Bruce.
Yes, ma'am.
Bruce, I'm sorry. Going back to the point that you raised about the rounds and what we're on pace to do, what do you think is the sweet spot that we, what's the right number of rounds to be able to maintain the golf course the way you would like to see it maintained?
65,000 rounds. No, I mean, the golf course looks so good. Trevor and his crew have done such a great job. It's hard for me to say that the golf course can be any better. But, from a common sense side of it, Ms. Golding, we have to assume that at some point wear and tear takes in. We don't know when that's going to be, but we have to be. There's very few sustainable golf courses that can do this much at the rounds we're doing and stay in that condition. So this is a little bit, fish out of water experience for all of us. That this is unprecedented for us to do this many rounds. We forecast to do this many rounds. Is we don't know. So ideally, yeah, in a perfect world, I would guess 45 would be a good number, but that's cutting out a lot of people. And as I'm going to get to later, this is we want to make as many people happy, certainly our constituents, as possible. So us limiting the rounds to 20,000 less, we'd have to find a way to limit who plays and who doesn't. And we want to make sure that our locals are the ones who are getting to play. So I don't know if there's a magic number, but I would guess somewhere in that 45,000 range would be a great number for us.
Okay,
Yeah, and it also comes down to revenue. We could close the course and not be open on Mondays. We could get our rounds down, but then we lose the revenue. When we lose the revenue, we're not able to keep the conditions where they're at. So I think that's kind of what we'll do is obviously we don't want to drive our prices up to alienate people, but we got to come up with ways to capture more revenue. And once the new point of sale comes online, or Bruce could speak on
we get some other things running. We could capture no shows. There's other things that we can capture to get our revenue up. Then it'll allow us to close where those lines kind of come together.
Yeah, Trevor's right. And I think, we talked about that at the last council briefing we had of what is that perfect mixture of who we're trying to cater to and how much do we want them to charge. We don't want to price out our regulars. So there's a lot of thought. And obviously with COVID since March coming in place, there hasn't been much time to think about much. We're just trying to manage the rounds that we've had. And I'm guessing most everyone knows, but we've had, no one budgeted for this. We had no expectations, no understanding, no anticipation or forecast on what would happen. But since March 1st, even prior to TPC week, our round count has gone absolutely through the roof. Obviously golf course conditions have a great deal to do with that, but I think people are looking to get outside, and we've been able to provide something fun for them to do. So let me kind of get back online here. So as far as recent, I'm sorry.
I had a question. The revenues are looking great. You guys are doing a wonderful job with that. My question is, when is the expected time frame to start refunding the general fund for the renovation? I know I bring this up all the time.
Yeah, no, we've got $150,000 that we're slated to give back over the next year.
Okay.
That's a great question. We had budgeted to do $25,000 each month. And then at some point we thought, hey, let's do $10,000 and spread it out. But I think with the progress that we've had, we do plan on paying that $25,000 back on a monthly basis here in this next year.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. So yeah, just so you know, we've had a lot of attention, a lot of eyes on Jack's Beach. We had the city championship was hosted at Jack's Beach a couple weeks back for the first time ever in its 60-year history. So this is an event that is always held at the private area, high-end country clubs because of conditions, and that speaks volumes to Trevor that they came to us and we hosted it. And we didn't just get local, regional, or national attention. We got international attention because a girl that won the U.S. Women's Amateur Championship last year, Gabby Ruffles, asked to come play in the event. So we had Golf Channel media about a couple months back saying Gabby Ruffles is playing at the Jack's Beach at the City of Jacksonville's championship, along with two other girls that brought a lot of notoriety. So we've had a lot of eyes on us for sure. We have an event here coming up in November that's an international event again that is being hosted by No Laying Up, which is and like Mike Stefopoulos, when I came to him a few months back, said, hey, I want to close the golf course for 2 days for this major event. He said, well, not without our local constituents having a chance to play in it. So we held a qualifier. Internationally, they're having one person from each qualifier be able to play in the event. And No Laying Up gave us 8 people locally to play in the event. Out of the 100 people, 8 will be Jack's Beach constituents. So that's great news for us. And we've had a great deal of success from from a media side of it. There's a lot of eyes on us. On to the goals for 2021. Any questions about the expectations or anything we've recognitions up to this point? Okay. So we want to ensure that the golf course pays its own way, generating sufficient revenues through marketing, promotions. Trevor will probably talk here at the end a little bit more about what long-term projects we need to handle, serious projects that we've got ahead of us that weren't covered during the renovation. The $1.9 million is fantastic, but there's a number of different projects that still need to get done. And, for us, we want to be the best municipal golf course on the planet and still have the right rates for our constituents to play it in a proud manner and not feel like they're being price gouged. And we talked about it at the briefing a few weeks back. Junior golf has been and will always continue to be a priority for Jack's Beach. We've hosted a number of different junior golf events, from North Florida Junior Golf Foundation to U.S. Kids Golf. We're hosting an American Junior Golf Foundation Association event in November, October, which is something that's always held at not just the elite clubs on a city level, but on a state level. This is the best kids in the country, and they're coming here in October. The golf course conditions, a number of different factors have led to us actually being able to host an event like this. I never hosted an event like this at any facility I was at prior. So this is a big feather in our cap to be able to bring in national audience with not just the kids, the parents, coaches, but also college scouts to flood our cities, restaurants, hotels. And we're also about to sign up, or we're about to start our first year in North Florida. Our flagship location starts this week. Sorry, we've had a lot of things going on. So yeah, as far as junior golf goes, we've made a lot of moves, and we've had a number of different, comments versus whether it's email or phone calls that I've gotten from people saying, I wish every other golf course was this, conveniently located for our juniors, and embracing with open arms all the junior golf we've done. As far as COVID goes, like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of tough to figure out what's going to happen. I've heard a lot of different things from a number of different people. Does the customer base that we have gained since March, is that sustainable? Is this, and when we go to the player statistics here on this chart, we used to have 20% walkers, 80% riders, so on and so forth. Does that revenue, is that sustainable? Is that something we can plan on moving forward? From a playing it safe side of it, I would expect that 50% of the people that have taken golf as their activity since COVID will return. The others will go back to whatever other activities outdoors that they were doing in the past. But I think from a safe side of it, just 50%, and that's a new customer of ours. So who knows what's going to give? Because right now, it's almost like what you don't see in these stats, and we have all these great language and charts. What you don't see is the number of players that we turn down every day, and that's a sad part for us, that we have people call in from the day before to the day of. Hey, what's the first I can get for foursome today? 7:09, and there's like this awkward pause, and we'll say PM. They didn't think they had to wait until 7:09 the next day or that day to play golf, but it's been that way since COVID. Who knows how much of that we can expect to continue, but right now we are certainly prepared for it, and hoping that even if just half of that new customer stays on board, we'll be in great shape moving forward. Any questions on our goals at this point?
What's the status of the restaurant?
They're open, Ms. Dumont. They're open with limited seating inside, of course.
They have outdoor seating as well, correct?
They do. And that part of it, and the beverage carts have also, helped them a great deal. They've done a whole lot better than the old operation did with an open restaurant with 100% seating. So we're pleased with their performance at this point. We're looking forward to a number of different aesthetic changes moving forward that will certainly help enhance the theme of doing some sort of fire pit outside, a number of different physical enhancements that we certainly hope to build their business and have them build us.
Yeah, I was thinking about the new customer experience, how to keep that 50% you're hoping will stay beyond just golf. So that's why I was asking about the restaurant, but I'm glad to hear it's going well and they're able to keep their head above water, especially being a new restaurant right now.
Well, the number of rounds we give them.
Restaurant.
Yeah. No, the number of rounds we give them on a daily basis. I mean, we're talking about 200 plus, 220 plus rounds a day, plus the people that come out and practice, and that is our new customer, right? So we've got this, the cover and the new machine that I think that's our new customer that gives them something to do every time they come out and play. And obviously that's going to feed the food and beverage operation. Hopefully the more they do this and the more sustainable that model is, the more they're like, maybe I want to come out and practice and by putting my chipping, the golf course looks great. That's a new customer for us. So yes, we're trying to kind of bond with them to make sure that our goals stay the same in driving new revenues and new golfers.
Thank you.
As far as the financial summary that we've got here, we've got the, Green Fees Pro Shop sales. It's, I think Jason asked me the other day, it's like, how are your Pro Shop numbers up when you've had the Pro Shop closed since March? So we've had a number of different people ask us on a daily basis, hey, can I get this? Can I get this? And we'll do private showings or one person at a time, those types of things. So our Pro Shop numbers are up, even though we've been closed. Obviously the driving range numbers are literally right now, they're more than double than they were since March of last year. And I can only expect that once we get the cover operational and we get our speakers up and running, at some point lights down the line, that'll give us a revenue source that, if for whatever reason the golf course is struggling, we've got a drought or hurricane, whatever the case might be, that we can have the practice range open to always fuel our revenue line, and that'll certainly help all these numbers here. I'll turn it over to Trevor to see if anything you want to point out, Trevor.
I think you just about covered it. The thing with the renovation, just to keep in mind, the renovation did cover a very small part of the golf course. It covered the 3 acres of greens. It covered some rerouting that really helped with pace of play. I think those are the 2 biggest things we got from the renovation. The rest of the golf course, the fairways, the tees, they're all 1984 irrigation. The drainage is all 1984. So those are things that we always have to be mindful of, watch out for. We continue to work hard and work with it. The 2 part-time seasonal positions will just be huge for us next year, helping us get more cultural practices done and really to make sure that we maintain the asset. That's really all I got.
And Trevor alluded to something that from a golf tournament side of it that does drive our play, not just now, but in the future. They had some interesting stats that I just got from the city championship. So they gave us the stats for the last 4 years, right? And the last 4 years at, I won't say the names, but very high-end private area country clubs. And there are certain barometers, certain guidelines that they go by. And a few of the important ones were like the average, pace of play, the average score per round of golf. And we were the second highest as far as toughness of golf course, which you wouldn't expect at a Muni, right? You're going to have easy conditions. You're not going to have fast greens. Only the high-end country clubs had that. So we had the second hardest golf course in the last 4 years. More importantly, we had a pace of play that was 45 minutes faster than the average, which golf tournaments want that. They don't want to stay out 5.5, 6 hours. I'm sure Alan's gone, but he would appreciate that comment. So for us to be 45 minutes quicker than the average area private country club is remarkable for us. And more importantly for us, the website hits that was created for this event was 50,000. The next closest, 17,000. So yeah, it's been we're having a good time at the golf course. Revenues, financials are great. The support from the city has been remarkable, and we certainly hope we can continue this moving forward.
How long does it take to play a round of? How long does a golf game?
3 hours and 54 minutes is our average.
Thank you.
That's according to our GPS, and that is. I mean, you can have 3 hours and 54 minutes be your average if you have 15,000 rounds a year. But the law of averages works against you, Ms. Dumont, when you have 68, 65,000 rounds. You're bound to have a slow person or slow group, and that's going to slow up the rest of your day. So, we haven't had that problem. We've been very fortunate. We've got the starters, we've got the staff in place to help us keep that. And that is a big driving factor and big component as to why people come play a golf course. They don't want to take all day to play golf. That's one of the big driving factors that keep people from playing golf is playing 5.5, 6 hour rounds of golf. It takes the whole day to do it. So for us to maintain a 3 hour and 54 minute pace of play is something we're very proud of and happy to move forward.
And I won't go golf, so this way you can maintain your 3 hour, 54 minute.
Come on out anytime. Just call us in advance.
And you don't want me golfing because I will tear up that beautiful golf course. I'm not a golfer by any means.
That's what Trevor's for. He grows grass back very well. Any other questions for us?
Good job, you guys. Phenomenal job.
Thank you, Charlie. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for everything.
Yep. Ditto.
Thank you. Thank you for all the support. We couldn't do it without you guys.
Okay.
Jason, is there anything you need to wrap up from Parks and Rec?
I don't think so, Mike. We're anxious to meet again, talk about the parks assessment.
Oh, I do have a question. I just realized I had a note here and I didn't ask it earlier, Jason.
Sure.
What's the status on the donated water fountains?
Good question, Ms. Golding. And fortunately, we got the mayor and city manager. I meant to get with them. So they are installed. They have been installed for, I'm going to say, over a month now. What the running club would like to do is maybe do a photo op with the mayor, city manager, some city council members. we told them that, you know, now may not be the good time to do it, but, you know, when things get back to some kind of normalcy, or if you feel that you wanted to do one, we can arrange it. But they are installed and they have been for a while now.
And where are they exactly?
So we have one at Seawalk Pavilion on the west side of the boardwalk, almost at the dune walkover.
I don't know why I didn't see it when I was there for the run.
Yeah, it's there.
Okay.
And then the other one is at Oceanfront Park next to the shower tower.
Okay.
It's closer to the stage, Sandy.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah, it's like maybe in the first quarter back from the stage.
Okay. I'll check it out.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffman.
Hey, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again, Jason, you got a great team, but they got a great leader. And, you know, I remember the old days and all the transitions we went through in parking and recreation and all the difficulties that we had. And you've really just done a tremendous job again. And thank you very much for your dedication to the city. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. And, you know, again, I'm blessed to be able not only to work at this great city, but with people like Trevor and Bruce, and we have others on staff. I did send them your sentiments at the last council meeting where we did that proclamation. But it's that culture that, you know, I'm excited to be a part of. I like people that like what they do, that are talented at what they do, and they give their very best. With that formula, we can't help but have success. But thank you. It's a pleasure to serve you guys.
And Mike, are you getting ready to wrap up?
Yeah, if there's no other questions from council on the two departments that you heard tonight, we're ready to wrap up for the evening.
I got nothing for the departments, but a couple of things I'd like to chime in here. Number
Absolutely.
one, thank you and the executive staff for doing a great job of putting this together. You know, it didn't go by anybody that this was the first year we've done everything virtually. And it was a good experience, actually. I mean, I got a lot out of it. I've got resources spread all around me so that I can kind of track along as we move forward. And so thank you and your team for putting together a good show. And I also want to thank my colleagues that are here, Ms. Hoffman, Ms. Dumont, and Ms. Golding. All of you made all the meetings. I appreciate that very much. I know our constituents do too. Your dedication it's important and certainly noticed. So thank you for being here for each of the meetings. It's grateful. That's all I have, Mike.
All right, thank you very much. Big shout out to all of the department directors and all the staff. I think they did a great job putting it together, not just the budget, but then also the virtual platform for the workshops this year and the budget showcase itself. With that being said, I won't keep you all. It's just about 6:30. Everybody go have a good Tuesday evening. And I believe we have a council meeting next Monday evening, which will be a virtual briefing at 5:30, followed by a virtual meeting at 7 p.m. So we'll see you all next Monday.
See you guys. Have a good night.